Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting on November 18th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. Beaumont is proud to be part of Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis, and we value the enduring relationships with Indigenous peoples who continue to share their story, knowledge, and culture with our community. Next, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a committee member willing to move the agenda tonight?
That the November 18, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Is there any comments or debate on that motion? Seeing none, call the question, please. I don't see the, oh, okay, cool. There we go. And that carries unanimously, 6-0. I should mention that Councillor Natellenboss is not with us tonight. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, adoption of the minutes. Looking for a motion to adopt the minutes. Is there a committee member willing? Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will move that the June 17th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Is there any comments or debate on that? Seeing none, call the question. And that one carries 6-0, unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4 on our agenda, open forum. Madam Clerk, do we have any open forum registrations for this evening?
Hi, Deputy Mayor. We do have Committee of the Whole November 7th motion that we need to adopt those minutes. Sorry
about that. Let's just back up here. Item 3.2, do I have a committee member that is willing to move that? Councillor Murray.
I move that the November 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any comment or debate on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question, please. And that carries unanimously. Now we'll move on to item number 4, open forum.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We do not have any open forum registrations for this evening.
Okay, thank you for that. Brings us to number 5.1. Tonight we have the 30th Ave and 60th Street Public Engagement and Traffic Safety Review, and we have our presenter here for that. Thank you very much. If you hit your button, then I will. Okay, great. I'll turn it over to yourself. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and committee. My name is Ryan Anders. I'm currently the manager of municipal projects. At the time of this project, I was the manager of engineering and environment. I am a professional engineer with more than 20 years of transportation design and project implementation experience, as well as a road safety professional, designated through the Institute of Transportation Engineers. I am happy to be here today to provide you with an update on the June 2025 Council direction to conduct a traffic and pedestrian safety review at the 30th Avenue and 60th Street intersection. In order to complete this task, a technical review and public engagement was conducted through internal resources. Traffic and pedestrian volumes were observed to be high during peak periods. However, they do remain within the expected design capacity for this classification of roadway. There had been a traffic study completed in 2021 by an engineering consultant, and this study was also leveraged and reviewed to support our findings and recommendations. In the 2021 study, ultimately the recommendation was at that time, no alterations or upgrades were required at that intersection. So looking at the area, there has been ongoing growth resulting in current traffic volumes approximately reaching the 7,000 vehicles per day through the intersection. And while busy at times, this is still well within the intended design range. Additionally, an online public surveys was carried out to gather feedback on how the intersection was functioning from the public's perspective. Using traffic data, engineering best practices, and public feedback, a solution was designed, engineered, and implemented earlier this year prior to the school start. So looking at the assessment phase in more detail, traffic volumes and operations were performing within the expected range for a major collector roadway and intersection. The intersection is operating safely and efficiently. That is, of course, when users follow the rules of the road. And that said, we all know that some drivers are sometimes confused when approaching a four-way stop. Our technical review did not highlight any safety or operational concerns from an engineering perspective. So that would require a higher level of treatment or improvements such as signals or a roundabout at this time. Eventually, however, with ongoing growth throughout the city and region, this intersection will need to be redesigned to support safe and efficient operations while accommodating higher volumes and extended wait times. So when that time comes, Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors will need to be consulted prior to any changes being approved. Looking at the public engagement, a public survey was, my slides here, conducted in July to better understand community concerns. So through the survey, we did receive an impressive 444 responses, which does indicate a strong interest at this location. So going through some of the questions, we found that over half of the respondents live near the intersection and drive through it daily. 97% of the respondents were Beaumont residents. 98% reported driving through the intersection versus walking or cycling, and 16% indicated that they travel through the intersection to drop off or pick up students at the school. Nearly 60% indicated that, in their opinion, they had observed or experienced a safety incident at some point while traveling through the intersection. However, that said, more than 68% of respondents indicated that they felt safe or mostly safe while traveling through the intersection. 82% also noted that school hour traffic, evening or morning, is the time when most incidents were observed. When asked for additional input, most respondents suggested that signals, a roundabout, or driver education would improve the condition at the intersection. Public feedback did align closely with the engineering observations, and therefore, using best practices and engineering principles, I personally designed the current traffic control configuration, and our Public Works team implemented it this past August prior to school start. The design is intended to enhance clarity for all users, drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. Follow-up observations during peak hours show that driver and pedestrian interactions have improved, and anecdotally, it would appear that safety, user awareness, and operational flow has led to a greatly improved intersection. Additionally, out of the handful of calls that I have received about this intersection, most have noted the improvements were appreciated. So in this slide, if you haven't had the opportunity to visit the area, it illustrates the improvements that have been implemented today. Key elements include clear lane marking and guidance, including the associated signs, stop lines, and crosswalk lines. In addition to the lane lines, no parking and no stopping signs were added near the intersection to reduce congestion from vehicles parking too close to the intersection. While we're still seeing congestion, efficiency has improved. So lastly, the concrete mini barriers were added along 30th Avenue on both sides. These barriers provide additional protection for pedestrians, help slow drivers, and provide additional clarity on the appropriate stopping location for the four-way stop. Again, anecdotally, through observation, this layout does provide clearer direction for vehicle movements and pedestrians while supporting a safer and more predictable use. In conclusion, the intersection and driver behavior appears to be performing within its intended design parameters. We certainly acknowledge that traffic volumes are high and will continue to increase. However, they are consistent with expectations for the area. The recent improvements have strengthened safety and operations and will continue to be monitored and maintained. Ultimately, a long-term intersection redesign will be required, which may include intersection control such as signals or a roundabout. So based upon current projections and our transportation master plan, this upgrade should be expected to be required in 10 to 15 years and will be included in our future capital plans. So with that, Mr. Chair and committee, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, great presentation, and I would say well done on the intersection. And as the conclusion says, more to do, and as the conclusion says, more to do, more to come, right? So as we grow. Checking the order of events here, we have Councillor Murray, followed by Councillor Hyde, followed by Councillor Colesmith.
Thank you for your report. I just have a couple of questions. In the review, it was stated that at 2021 there were 6,800 vehicle movements, and now there's roughly 7,000 vehicle movements. What do we expect that to rise to now that those areas are mostly developed? What's our estimation on that?
With growth in the region, and there's still some commercial land yet to be developed and opportunities within, you know, we would see that in and around that 9,000 vehicles could be accommodated through that area.
Okay, I'm just curious, what was I know you had mentioned best practices, but why not just paint, or why not mini barriers instead of both?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Murray. We were looking for a cost-effective but also effective solution. And so within the means of our operating budgets, we had limited options available to us. In this context, there were issues with pedestrian crossing. There are lots of daycares in the area as well as the school, and the daycares do cross at that location. And it was one of the messages we heard during the public engagement was that there are littles and often platoons of littles crossing the crosswalks at that location. The mini barriers do provide that physical barrier. And so when vehicles approach that, not only does it constrict the roadway and help slow people down, they also limit the corner cutting. And so if you're making that left-hand turn, you actually have to turn at the correct location. Mm-hmm. If you're making a left-hand turn from that location, you also can't cut the corner again. And it improves all movements while also highlighting the crosswalk as a location and an actual physical barrier versus just paint on the roadway. Paint is effective, but it doesn't ever stop a car.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hyde, you're up.
Yeah, appreciate the presentation. I had some pictures. Do I have some pictures I can put up of the roadway? I live down, actually, full disclosure, in Four Seasons, and I took these pictures today, and we're approximately 4 to 6 inches there on that one curb. Another picture I have is actually some tire marks going almost directly all the way over the curb. So, I mean, I'm sure that they're helping in many ways. However, my concern is when it does get very icy, are people, I know that they're supposed to do, I know what people are supposed to do and how they're supposed to react. However, they are not reacting, and I'm just wondering how many people are we going to see any larger accidents because of these impeding concrete barriers? Is there some way we can do this a little bit better so people aren't destroying their vehicles on these concrete things, no matter how bad a driver they are? Is there some way we can make them look more visible? Maybe yellow paint all the way down the front of the concrete structures, something, or fluorescent. to make sure that they're not smoking these things on a continuous basis. I know what the intent is. I'm just trying to make this easier on people so that they see these things if they're in large trucks, especially large trucks that have been turning into the new subdivision that is being made right now, are taking huge big runways around these things, and sometimes they're clipping them as well. So just wondering how you feel about safety in regards to these concrete barriers, as well as, you know, the implementation of them.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Hyde. I think observationally, I would suggest that it's likely large vehicles, probably towing trailers, that are coming into contact with these, and I wouldn't consider that a safety concern per se. The safety achieved by having the barriers located where they are, it's a common usage of this type of device. And so for roadways of this nature, it is wide. There's a tremendous amount of space, especially in this image as we're looking at. There's a bus lane in addition to the travel lane, so there's plenty of opportunity for a proper turn in this location, and I wouldn't think that this would be your average vehicle, your commuter vehicle coming into contact with this type of barrier. Observationally, the turn radii have been designed according to most standard vehicles and should accommodate large vehicles as well. So I would prefer to maintain this type of device to improve the safety for the vulnerable road users. We have lots of smaller children and school-aged children who are using this intersection and crosswalk, and if a driver with a larger vehicle comes into contact with this, it's probably a construction vehicle, and it wouldn't be a significant incident. It wouldn't be a significant amount of damage. It looks like some tire rubbing on this, but I would suggest that drivers are paying more attention and should be more aware of their surroundings through this location, which is part of the intent, is to raise the awareness of the importance of this intersection and the nature of the environment that they're in. They do need to slow down. They do need to drive according to the rules of the road.
Yeah, can I have you put it back on, thanks. So, again, I understand the intent. I understand people should be aware. I'm just saying, is there some way we can make them more reflective on the front so that perhaps they're more aware of where they are, sort of an idea, not, or somehow. We've got a big sign there, I agree, 100%, but if there's some way we could just make it a little bit more visible, maybe that may be to go. The other thing is that now that we've made this basically a 7-way, 4-way stop, what I'm seeing when I come to the intersection and everybody looks around and goes, okay, who goes first, right? I understand, they should know. Not everybody does, and you see a lot of waving hands and people saying, well, who goes first, what's going here? So it's not ideal just to have the arrows. Obviously, that's something that we need to do some further work on that side of it. And the second part to that question is, even though we have multiple no parking signs all the way up both sides of the street, going up 60th Ave towards the school, or 60th Street towards the school, everybody parks there to drop their kids off. So something needs to be done in that direction as well, because nobody pays attention to those signs whatsoever, and they drop their kids off, and if they don't drop their kids off there, they're driving into the residential neighborhood and they're dropping off kids there. So I don't know what the solution is, whether we need a better roundabout or something like that in front of the school, but nobody's paying attention to those stop signs, and it's very dangerous for the kids jumping in and out of the cars, running across to the school, not necessarily running up to the crosswalk, put it that way. So those are the two-part question I have, the 7 cars coming in the intersection, and of course the disobedience of the stop signs because there's no place to drop your kids off.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through you, thank you very much for the comments. In regards to the multiple laneage, the design of the intersection prior to the changes was the same. Many times there were people bypassing, making it 4 lanes in that context. And so there was uncertainty as to where people were going, what their direction of travel was going to be. If somebody was making a left, somebody might, so if you're going eastbound on 30th Avenue in front of the Esso side, Somebody could be making a left-hand turn, the person could go on the right-hand side and continue straight. By eliminating that and forcing those directional arrows so that it's only a right turn now and a left through, or a dedicated left-hand turn in the north-south directions, we ensure that there's more clarity. And again, this was a temporary, long-term temporary, but still temporary solution at a low cost that we were able to implement quickly and in-house with existing budgets. We can, and we do intend to, at some point in the future here, that 10 to 15 years, redesign the intersection. But, redesign is $200,000, reconstruction's probably a couple million. We did this for a couple thousand. And the system is far better than what it was. And when council had asked for this in June for the review, there was nothing planned prior to this. So by putting a spotlight on it, we did the review and we were able to come up with, in my opinion, biased obviously, it's mine, design to make some improvements to this intersection. I feel we've achieved that and without any additional cost to the community in that sense. Second part, parking is always an issue around community schools. Every community school has the pickup drop-off, and that is a challenge. You are correct. In regards to disobeying traffic laws, that is certainly an enforcement issue, and there could be an educational component applied to that through the schools. We have communicated with the schools at the same time, and they do work to educate parents and teachers as well to help ensure safety, that kids aren't simply bolting out between cars and they're using the crosswalks or they're walking appropriately at the crosswalks, which are designated at the access to the school as well. So we look to the schools, the parents, to obey those traffic laws, and it is unfortunate, and more education is likely required to help promote and support the observance of those traffic laws.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess my comment on that is what I would like to observe is personal accountability at intersections, right? I think that's where this conversation is and needs to be, right? It's a four-way stop, not unlike many that we see in all the municipalities around us, right? So, yeah, Councillor Goldsmith.
Thank you. Just two short questions. The 7,000 VPD, is that over the full 24 hours, or the report mentioned in the mornings during school pickup and drop off things were worse? Is it still the 7,000 VPD, or 1/24th of that at that time, or how is that measured?
Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Goldsmith, it's 7,000 vehicles per day is kind of an average number across the 24 hours. We would look to about 10% for those peak hour movements. So during that pickup drop off, you'd see about 700 in that time period. It's a rough estimate we generally use in transportation engineering to assess peak hour movements. It may be more, it may be less. We didn't go out and collect more data. That's a fairly onerous and heavy usage of resources to collect data in that nature. So also expensive to hire consultants to do it. We are basing it on assumptions and observations. So that's approximately what it is, about 10%.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. And then did we collect any data on reported motor vehicle accidents at this intersection?
Mr. Chair, through you again, I did not check with them on the collision analysis before and after. It is something that we will keep an eye on before and afters. We usually would like about 2 years of data before you can understand any potential impacts or influence from a traffic change. Often when you make a change, there might be an increase. Things are changed, things are different, people are getting used to the situation, the circumstance, the signal, or the traffic control changes. So over the next couple of years, we'll accumulate that data and work with our police to ensure that we're close to and improving the situation. Collisions is a challenging metrics in some cases because it does ebb and flow with time periods. We had the couple of years before, we have COVID, so lower volumes, lower crashes. I mean, it's usually fairly well correlated.
Yeah, I appreciate them. It's one element, but not a deciding factor in and of itself. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anders, for your review and report. This is not necessarily in the scope of what you've done, but just going forward as you kind of monitor or as we monitor that intersection. I'm wondering if was there any discussion about maybe relieving some pressure from that intersection through, say, for example, talking with the owner of 29th Avenue to open that up? That's a private road. To be able to relieve some pressure of having to go through one area to get out.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through you, I may have to phone a friend on this one, but that access next to the Tim Hortons and Esso has come up in recent discussions with a new development, and so there might be an opportunity to relieve some of that pressure, as you noted, and so, yes.
Perfect.
Councillor Penrod.
Thank you, and just join my colleagues saying thank you for the excellent report. You've already spoken to the question that I had from just reading your report, and that was just kind of the tension between people's observation of a relatively high amount of the people polled reported near misses and actually witnessing accidents or incidents there. But compared to the conclusion of the study, which is that the intersection is working within the parameters that it's designed for. So you've already spoken to that. I won't beat that further, but maybe I'll just take it in the direction of what's missing. In your expert opinion, the upgrade that happened this summer has kind of brought the intersection up to spec for the current traffic volumes. What's missing? I mean, personal accountability aside, I mean, there's lots of different types of personal accountability. If you judge by Facebook, it's people getting out of their cars or doxing each other on social media or confronting each other in the parking lots when they get there. We'd like to avoid that, I think. Maybe you can give me a perspective, or maybe this is a question for Mr. Schwartz, just around how we think about enforcement and how if I'm a resident of this neighborhood and I'm seeing stuff happening at this intersection and I'm concerned that maybe more enforcement is needed there, what would administration's recommended advice to a resident like that be?
CEO, would you like to weigh in?
Sure, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Penrod. Any incidences that people believe is unsafe, they need to report them. We can't do anything if we don't know anything about them. I will say that the amount of collisions, if any, is not on our radar in that intersection. It's not an unsafe intersection. I think it comes back to personal accountability, and as you spoke, people don't like that. It is a busy place. There's a school there. We will keep monitoring it, and if it turns into some reported incidents, then we'll look at other measures.
Yeah, so is that a non-emergency portal type thing? People would report it there, or would that be a call to the RCMP on their non-emergency line?
I would call either way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hesitate to call the RCMP on their non-emergency line.
Yeah, I know at another public meeting in the fall, one of the members was saying to residents that they welcome those types of calls because they undergo heat mapping exercises, and that's part of how they think about how they deploy in the community. So that's just another piece for people to keep in mind.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Councillor Murray, I think you're last up here.
Thank you again. Mine is very similar to Councillor Penrod. I'm just curious if we had considered doing more of an approach of like bylaw enforcement or something, waiting at the corners or being there to watch. And then second to that is going forward, my belief personally is that the people that are distracted are going to be distracted no matter what. Physical barriers and that are going to be in place. But since we know that there is still an issue probably with the parking in terms of school drop-off and that sort of thing, is that something that's also something that we can look at as well going forward?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, through you, and not to speak for my enforcement colleagues, but it is always a joint effort when it comes to engineering, enforcement, education, engineering, we try to work together in that context to support the safest system and environment that we can for our residents. And of course, education alone, while a police officer is standing there, while there's enforcement there, works well. It's the watchful eye, obviously. People behave a little better when they know they're being watched. And there could be still, in the context of that pickup drop-off, maybe there's an opportunity that, you know, we can review, and maybe say Schwartz can chime in on the enforcement aspect of it. But for me, it's always been a collaborative, joint effort.
Sorry, one more question. A lot of the schools, and I'm not exactly certain about this one, have a little way to access, basically drop at the door. And I believe typically the schools are not using it. There's something of that, and like the kiss and go idea that they do in a lot of areas in Edmonton. Is that something that has been talked about with the school boards?
Mr. Chair, through you, I would have to confirm with my colleagues internally if that discussion, there are facilities available, but they often are over consumed and become congested regardless. More and more people pick up and drop off using their personal vehicles, and less are taking the transportation that's available. So that could be for after school programming or before school programming. We don't know the reason why, but it is something that we've seen across the region. And when I talk to my colleagues across the region, that's a similar sort of behavior that we're seeing more and more, and regional schools as well. So we see people coming from further away. As we saw, 16% roughly are there only to pick up and drop off. So yeah, it's something that we can continue to work with our schools every year, and every time there's a new principal or a change, there's often changes in operations. So we can help support our school partners as well with plans.
Great. Well, seeing no more requests to speak, thank you for the presentation tonight, and fine job. And what I would say is the demarcations are providing clarity where there once was little. So I think we've improved and continue to be better every time we try this. So thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. We'll move on to 5.2, Operating and Major Project Grants 2026. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you press your button, I'll make you live. And pass it over to you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jasmine Alniski, and I am the team lead for Arts, Grants, and Events. This evening, we have information on the major and operating grants for 2026. This is the second intake for this funding program, which was approved in January 2024. Operating grants provide support for administrative costs, facility operating expenses, and costs incurred to deliver regular ongoing activities, programming, and recurring established community events and festivals. Major project grants support significant one-time projects with a request for funding over $10,000. Funding can be awarded as a single or multi-year commitment and supports activities in the following fiscal years, 2026, 27, and 28. The program provides operating and major project grants covering up to 100% of eligible expenses to a maximum amount of $50,000 per year. Applicants may request one operating grant and one major project grant for a total maximum of $100,000 per year. Funding requests may be for 1, 2, or 3 years, and applicants may receive full, partial, or no funding. The council funding envelope for operating and major projects for 2026 is $130,000, with $110,000 having already been allocated. The list of approved operating and major project grants is included in your council report. There is $20,000 remaining to be allocated for 2026. During the 2026 budget deliberation process, council will decide whether applicants will receive full, partial, or no funding. Administration will finalize funding agreements with successful applicants based on council's direction and budget approval. A summary of the funding applications is included in attachment 1. Administration has reviewed the full applications and supporting documents to ensure all eligibility criteria have been met, and applicants are invited to present up to 5 minutes to council, followed by 5 minutes of questions from council members. And before we begin presentations, if council has any questions on the program itself, I would be happy to answer those now.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And again, I just want to reiterate that tonight is about, the questions on the program, and any ups, downs, or sideways is on amounts or conversations around that belong tomorrow and the next day we're going to hear more, and then next week we're going to, do the motion surrounding any of those amounts. So just reminders to everyone on that. And with that, I have Councillor Hyde, you're up. Just seconds, right? Juggling screens here. There you go.
Thanks. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question is the same as I usually have for the arts and the grants as well. These grants, I know that they were put out there for, basically saying $100,000 up to $100,000 and such like that. And a lot of people that had major operating expenses and things like that understood that these would be larger grants. And some of them are and some of them aren't. And my question, again, is if they don't get this full funding, some of these people can't go ahead with their project or their operations. So my question would be, once we determine whether or not they can go ahead with even the small amount, is that a determination as to, okay, if you can't, this isn't going to make a difference to your bottom line, you can't go ahead with your project, would we move that to somebody else because of the fact that they can't go ahead with that project?
Oh,
No, you're not on yet.
you're not.
Sec.
2 seconds here.
Now, okay.
Now you're on.
You're good, yep.
Thanks. So through the chair, is the question, like, if an applicant was to say no, this funding isn't going to help, what would council do with the rest?
Correct. So if somebody came to you and said, I need $50,000 to go ahead with my project, you're willing to only give me $10,000. Was the ask from the committee that, if you can't get the full 50,000, are you okay with $10,000, or this isn't going to happen for me, I can't go ahead with this? Would we move that $10,000 to somebody else because they needed the full 50,000 in order to go ahead with that project?
I hear what you're saying. So through the chair, one of the big differences between the operating grants and the community and arts grants is that council decides how much funding each of these applicants receive, whereas with the other grant streams, those committees make recommendations, and then council could, if they wanted to, adjust the amounts. So the funding amounts that you see in the report were made by the previous council. After long deliberation, there were far more applicants than could be awarded, and administration did their best to allocate funding based on the applications that had come in. However, administration is reviewing how operating and major project grants are awarded, and because the minimum ask for an operating grant is $10,000, is looking at the grant policy to determine whether or not that should be maintained as sort of like a threshold. So an organization that is applying for an operating and major project grant would never receive less than $10,000 because that's not really, may not be considered operating funds then. It's a smaller amount. However, again, the previous council did have some very difficult decisions to make, and so this is sort of how the allocations rolled out last time. However, if there was funding left over, yes, council could make a decision to reallocate those remaining funds to others if they felt that that was something they wanted to do.
Thank you.
Councillor Hyde, I think to help that along, the minimum that we saw in the last grants, like as in if we don't get this much, then it doesn't help. I believe that's baked into the policy at 10 grand. Like that's so. For this one, the minimum is baked in at 10,000. For the other ones, they are for the operating grant. Is that the right word? Yeah, they're identified by the group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but like I said, some of the asks are much more than 10,000. You know,
for sure.
So and they can't go even with their project at the $10,000 level. They needed 25,000, let's say, to go ahead with their project. So that's if they're only going to receive 10,000, they can't go ahead with their project. And that's my argument. Is basically, are we looking at, okay, if you can't make the 10,000, if you can't make the 25,000, and 10,000 isn't going to help you, can it be moved to another applicant where maybe we can boost it to $20,000, which will help them more to finish their project?
Yeah, fair and valid comment to the process, I think. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions from anyone? If not, we would move on to a presenter. Is that right?
So for 2026, one application was received for this grant stream. The applicant, Excel Artistic Swim, is joining us this evening, so I would like to invite Jill Monroe and Carrie McIntosh up to present. And they will have 5 minutes to present and then 5 minutes for questions from council.
Great, thank you very much. So as you guys get settled, the microphone is on, and
we're ready to go, I think. Oh, you're so I'm Carrie McIntosh.
Deep breath and you're off.
Yes. Is there a timer up there?
I believe administration will keep track of the time here
Okay,
for us.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jill Monroe. I was the revenue director for Excel Artistic Swimming, and now I'm the grants manager. I've taken a different role this year, but I did write this grant, so I'm here to present it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes,
maybe
I will.
If you wouldn't mind, just take the base and just pull it towards you a bit.
Move it
Yeah, and then it'll share easier.
like that?
There.
Okay.
We're restarting your 5 minutes. There you go.
Sorry, thank you so much. So, we are from Excel Artistic Swimming. Artistic swimming is formerly called synchronized swimming, so if that helps you figure out what we're doing. Our swimmers love dance, music, gymnastics, cheer, all of those kinds of activities, but they just want to do them in the water. They love to bring out their inner mermaid. Excel Artistic Swimming has been fostering and been committed to fostering respectful, positive, enjoyable environments for everyone to reach their potential, regardless of ability. We are one of the only clubs we are the only club in the region that offers an adapted program for athletes with disabilities. We also provide opportunities for low-income and newcomers to our programming with subsidized programming if possible, and we seek grants and other sources of funding to help that happen. We have been in Beaumont since 2013, 2014 when we joined with that club. They had a competitive program at the time. And in 2015, we added recreational and competitive programming to our Beaumont site. We have pre-comp programs, advanced pre-comp programs, provincial stream competitive programs, and national stream competitive programs. And our Beaumont swimmers are in all of them. Over the last 2 years, our club has revised and updated our registration structure. We've looked at the costs of what other clubs are assessing as their fees for registration, and we've tried to align ours, which has meant a fee increase over the last 2 years, 24-25 and 25-26. This has been, a big jump for some of our families, but it's necessary because we were just not sustainable at our current level of funding for our programs. This season, we have 1 provincial stream competition that's out of the city, and 3 national stream competitions that will be out of the city and across the country. Last year, we initiated a corporate sponsorship program, and we had some corporate sponsorship. We explored new funding options and have 2 new ones that we've incorporated this year. We also expanded our capacity to apply for grants, and we've built up our grant writing team to help us be more successful and to share out that work, because all of both our board and our volunteers are all, of course, volunteers, so nobody is paid except for our head coach and our coaches. And then we hire an accountant to do our books every year to make sure that everything is the way it should be. Our projected growth with the support of this grant, we are hoping is going to be 5 to 6 swimmers per year over the next 3 years. It's not a substantial amount, but it's big for us, and especially for our Beaumont program, which is currently about 30 swimmers when our pre-comp programs and competitive programs are together. Currently, we have 12 competitive swimmers that are swimming away from Beaumont, desperately awaiting to get back to their pool. And we have 18 spots available for pre-comp swimmers starting in January for that 10-week session, and the one after it, because the pool has been closed, so we just have not been able to swim, and their parents are not interested in commuting to Leduc or elsewhere to get their kids in the water. And I completely understand that, having commuted from Edmonton today. I do not enjoy that. Anyway, we feel that we could have 18 pre-comp swimmers joining our 12 in January, and in September, as also part of this year, our swimming season goes from September to June each year, that we would then have another 30 swimmers in this grant year, both competitive and pre-competitive. With this grant funding, we would help balance program expenses across all our athletes. There would be a smaller per participant cost for getting pool time and paying for coaches. We would be able to keep our program comparable to our Edmonton program and allow for inclusion and subsidization of programs for low-income, new immigrant, and swimmers with disabilities. And most importantly, keep our sport accessible to Beaumont residents. The funds we're looking for will be used for our advertising, our sound system, which is critical, pool and dryland space for conditioning and swimming, and subsidies for families that are desperate for them. We will also try to secure additional funding sources. Yeah, do you want to do a little about families?
Yeah, we've got about a minute left. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm a parent volunteer as well. I helped Jill write some grants last year, so I presented to council last year. And I think this funding could help so much more grow what Excel has done for so many years, is provided quality programming for athletes that may not go the regular athlete route, soccer, hockey, dancing. And artistic swimming is a beautiful sport. It is so amazing to watch those athletes swim with all their hearts. They are true mermaids, mer people. They love being in the water, and I think as a Beaumontonian, we need these quality programs. We need these programs that have heart, that care, that want to grow, that want to support all the athletes as best they can. So for us, this funding would help continue Excel's vision of inclusion. And this sport is so beautifully inclusive. When you go to the competitions, we went to one in Lethbridge and Grand Prairie, and everyone is cheering for everyone. It's not competitive. It's fun. It's energetic. To see the smiles on those athletes' faces is something that every parent looks forward to. So funding would help us continue this fantastic sport in our beautiful community that needs more quality programming.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Yeah,
Sorry, I was just going to say, one of the other things that I think is important about our program, that I really appreciate about our program, is it's based in the Beaumont Sport and Recreation Center, which means that parents can work out while their kids are working out. Other sports take place. There's a greater opportunity for community engagement and for connecting with others and other programming, which I think is a great support for families. We looked at our minimum ask. And so our minimum ask for this grant, hoping that we get money this year, we did not last year, we thought was $772. That would get us a sound system. It would not be the underwater part that plays the beautiful music underwater for swimmers to hear, but it would give us the sound system so that the rest of the programming, the connection to that would be in place. If we were to receive $4,575, we would be able to decrease our program costs for our athletes in Beaumont by 10% for the 2026 year. So we are hopeful, truly, to get 10,000. But if we don't, we will make it work because we believe programming is important in small communities.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for your presentation, and a little extra time there, hit a couple of questions. That's fine. I think it's helpful because you hit a couple of questions that I think might come, right, around that minimum, which we've heard, and then, what would the next tier look like, and we've heard those two numbers. So just a reminder to committee members that, questions of clarification from the presenter are where we're at tonight, and any of the decisions on monetary, we leave that for budget. So, Councillor Penrod, I see you up first here.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Good to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you as well.
Thanks for taking the invitation to come and present. It's so important, having served previously on one of the community grant deciding bodies, so important to get the extra detail that doesn't necessarily come through in a written report or application. That said, your written application, took a chance to review it, and phenomenal, well done. I know these things take a lot of time and investment, so thank you for going to that effort. I know that you were here with us earlier in the fall and you gave us some feedback on the intake and decision making in the past and for this program. And I'm just wondering if you've noticed any improvements or changes to the process during this intake process.
So I think what I noticed specifically, we had the dates for everything quite early. I knew that a few weeks ago that I would be coming here on November 18th. I appreciated that in the application form that it asked for a minimum. It asked for, if we can't do anything else for you, is there anything we could do? Because I remember at that session, one of the groups saying, we didn't get enough, hearing your point, we didn't get enough, we can't do anything with this. And I thought, this is bad for them, but, we soldiered on and just are trying our best. Mm-hmm. And we will piece together whatever we need for our programming. I know that there are a lot of really important projects that you're being asked for money for because the cost of everything is so much more than it was even last year. Mm-hmm. But I did appreciate that question. So it really helped us focus on what is the absolute bare bones that we require. And hopefully we get more than the sound system, because we don't want to diminish the quality of our programming for Beaumont residents.
Thank you for the really well thought out answer. I do want to talk about the sound system, but before I do that, can you just help me understand why you've applied to this operational and major grants pot as opposed to the community grants pot? I think the sound system, to me, makes sense why that's kind of in the major projects piece, but it seems like and maybe this is the advice that you got from admin support, but just wanted to clarify that piece. Why this envelope and not the other?
I think in April we were directed to apply for other things, but I think we had been encouraged initially to apply for this specific grant, which is why we are applying for it again. And I'm not I was at that point very new to my role as revenue director and not being a grant writer. And so I just said, okay, I will apply for this. Let me see what I can do. And then we created that. I knew that we were asking for a small amount for the major operating grant. I mean, this is, but I think our leadership, our board, thought that this was perhaps our best chance to get something that would be helpful for us to be sustaining our programming over and sort of have a predictable income for a few years out.
Sure.
I think also to help, sorry, Jill, help grow Excel's vision of the growth plan as Beaumont grows, as Excel grows, to hopefully accommodate these extra costs that we'll incur, and then, based on our athlete pool, how do we grow from there? How do we continue to keep attracting new athletes, new families, and sustain those in a manageable way?
Thank you. And thank you for that answer. I think, given what you just said, I think you're in the right envelope. So you've gotten some good advice. You've made some good discernment on your part. Just two more quick questions, if I might. So in the more numbers part of your application, it looks like you're projecting growth in one way, and then I got a little confused by the narrative that you gave in your presentation. So I just want to clarify the expected growth of the Beaumont and Leduc County kind of users within Excel is what? I know it's a little tricky with our current shutdown, and that's the part that I got confused with.
We are hoping to have 5 to 6 additional swimmers every year.
Per year.
In our current programming. And of course, if we get more, we would then be able to expand that programming, perhaps even to master swimmers or to adult learners of synchronized swimming, which we have there is in Leduc and in Sherwood Park, but we don't have the capacity yet to offer it here.
Currently. So if I read your application correctly, you currently have 32 athletes?
We have 12 competitive athletes here. We have room for another 18.
Okay.
That we will have. We had a number of registrations in September or late August prior to the understanding that the pool was going to close for renovation and maintenance. And we reached out to those families and they said, we are just simply not interested in driving outside of our city to go to programming. I'm sorry. And I totally understand that. They work outside of the community. So many families work outside of the community that not wanting to do that commute 3 or 4 times additional in a week, I completely understand.
Thank you. So somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to 200, like 1.5 to 2 times growth is what you'd anticipate if your plans are executed through the grant over 3 years?
We are hoping that we would, have another 18 swimmers over the course of those years, and then to maintain the ones that we currently have,
Good. And that's specific to Beaumont and
specific to Beaumont.
Good.
No,
Thank you.
This is all just because we believe smaller communities deserve to have good sport.
We appreciate that. And so lastly, sounded like your go, no-go point is that $750-ish. And that, what I was curious about, you mentioned the sound system, but that number doesn't include the underwater component, is that correct?
So we currently have an underwater speaker that we are able to use in Beaumont. It's hanging on, but the stuff that's above that we have to connect to it. So we have a sound system on the deck that will have a speaker for above deck work and when the swimmers' heads are above water. Then we lower underwater a speaker so that the swimmers can hear the music underwater while they're doing their swim to make sure that they can stay on beat and on cue with their swimming. that underwater speaker that we currently have is still serviceable, but the other equipment is, we have been cobbling together equipment for a while because it's difficult to get money in grants for equipment.
Yeah.
We can get it for programming, but as soon as we say swim, like, oh, no.
Okay. The arrangement sounds like the club owns its own equipment, and then is that stored at
It is, I
BSRC,
believe,
or does it
stored
travel
at-
around to your
I believe that
other?
it is stored there.
Okay.
We have other equipment, and we do have some portable systems that move to other pools, but that system, I believe, lives at the Sport and Recreation Center here.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your work with our young people.
Yeah, thank you. And just for clarity, like as Councillor Penrod said, you're here tonight speaking about Beaumont, although Excel operates out of numerous other pools, right? And
Yes.
yeah, thank you for keeping the focus tonight. I think that's important for the room and the ask on the grant process. So, Councillor Hyde, over to you.
Yes, thank you for coming and speaking. Quite often we don't get people to come out and speak so highly of their program, so I can tell you have a lot of pride. I won't be part of your master's program. I'll leave that to the deputy mayor there who knows how to swim better than me. However, I do appreciate what you're doing. I want to know on the disability side of it, children with disabilities and people with disabilities, how much percentage of that is part of your program, and are you looking to expand that part of your program?
Well, my daughter is actually one of those swimmers. Our ratio for pre-comp program for individuals with disabilities is 1 coach to 3 swimmers. We have actually quite a large program of athletes with disabilities right now. We have 6 competitive swimmers that have now been with the program for 2 years. We have had a couple that have left our competitive programming in that program, and we have 3 other sites where we have athletes with disabilities continue to swim currently. I want to say that we probably have 25 additional swimmers outside of our competitive program that have disabilities. We were the first in Alberta to have a competitive program for adapted athletes, the first to participate in provincial competition. My daughter was one of those 2. And now Calgary has a nice group. And we're still hoping to build that because we just see all of the kids in our adapted program have different diagnoses. We have 2 with Down syndrome. We have 1 with Turner syndrome. We have 1 with autism and another one with, I'm going to say it wrong, but I think it's Prader-Willi syndrome. And they all swim beautifully together. They support each other amazingly. I've missed 1 swimmer, I realize, but they are just incredible to watch how they get together and support each other and how they grow in strength.
It's beautiful to watch, and it's beautiful to watch the whole team support every single athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that when my daughter started, she could egg beater or tread water for 10 seconds. And now she can tread water for an hour.
Wow.
And I just think this could not happen. She is strong and confident. It's
Excellent.
amazing.
And, good on you for that, because that's a big component, I think, for any sport, is to have children of all disabilities be able to perform within it. The other just quick thing with you, I know that your break-even point was for more of a major project than operational with having the speakers. You haven't really planned out what, if you get the 10,000 per year, will that be going just directly to operations, or are you looking at using it for other things? Because that's not really clear to me as to how that
Yes.
$10,000 over the next 3 years will be placed, whether it be operational or for equipment, or how you would plan to use the grant portion of it.
The grant will be specifically for advertising, renting our pool space and land drill space, dry land for conditioning. subsidizing our low-income newcomer athletes that require additional subsidy to be able to maintain or stay in the program. And really to just reduce costs. So to bring more coaches in, to have more swimmers in the pool, to pay for their opportunity to swim and make it so it's affordable for as many young people as possible. The equipment costs are just going to be that sound system. After that, that money is going to go strictly to making sure our swimmers, we can get as many swimmers in the water as possible, and to make the quality program that we really want to see for our Beaumont pool. Sorry, Carrie.
I just want to add that we also, you know, once we hook our athletes, they are hooked for life. They come back, they coach, they participate for years and years and years. So the ripple effect of one athlete coming in and attracting more athletes and then staying on as coaches is, our coach has been a swimmer since she was 5, and she's been with us for 3 years now. So this, if we can sustain the quality that Excel has come to be proud of, this ripple effect can sustain in our community for years and years and years.
Sorry, one more thing that we will be doing with the funding, or will be able to support with funding, is coach development. So we do subsidize coach training to make sure that our coaches have the skills. I mean, they have to have a certain level of training, of course, to be able to coach at all, to be at the pool side, but also to raise our athletes to those higher levels. There are several levels of training. Some of our coaches have gone on to university to take different courses to work and continue to work with coaching and athletes. So that's that would also be something else we would invest in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, thanks for being here tonight and advocating for your group. And personally, I've experienced the metal pole. I've experienced Lion King, the Achy Breaky Heart, and most of the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. So I've spent a lot of time in the pool over the years, and you know, just figured I'd inject a little bit of humor there. So
for that, I apologize.
Yeah.
it's all good. Okay, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you
Welcome.
very much.
Thank you.
So that concludes 5.2, and now we move on to section 6, which is councillor inquiries, and just looking to the clerk to see if we have any councillor inquiries tonight to present at all.
Thank you, Chair. I did have one councillor inquiry, but I'm not sure if Councillor Murray is wanting to make that this evening.
Yeah, I guess I'm on. Yeah, I could do that tonight. Yeah, I just see this now.
I can share it here.
Okay.
Screen. Okay.
Thank you. I'd like, please provide information on the land use bylaw signage, specifically to understand the difference between fast track process and the regular process.
Thank you for that inquiry. Last call here for any members of committee tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7, closed session.
Deputy Mayor, we actually don't have a closed session item this evening. That was part of the agenda item previously.
Perfect.
So it was just an information piece.
Okay, that sounds great. That means we're at number 8, which is meeting adjournment. So I'll call the November 18th Committee of the Whole meeting adjourned at 6:10 p.m. tonight. Thank you very much.